And here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back and welcome, Vera.
Hi, thank you,
Uh,
Kelly.
yeah, I'm so excited to get to talk with you again, and we could just catch up for hours and hours. But I want to share you with everybody because of our experience at the NABO Women's
Hmm.
Business Conference last month.
Yes.
That's where we met. And but first, let me do a little introduction so everybody knows who Vera is. And welcome if you're joining live. Please feel free to send us a comment or post. We will not be able to comment back, or at least I can't. I don't know if you can, Vera. I won't be able to comment back, but we would see your comments. So if you have questions for Vera, please feel free to post. And if you join us later, we look forward to hearing from you then too. Okay, Vera is a motivational speaker, communication coach, author, and award-winning television and radio broadcaster. She is in the Syracuse University Hall of Fame as a scholar athlete. She was the 1998 Big East Scholar Athlete of the Year. I know that is a big deal. And so even though that was a long time ago, but that's still a big deal. And that's such a good foundation for so many things. Beyond there, you were a coach. She was a coach in Dayton, Indiana, Florida Atlantic, and has an extensive background in broadcasting. So I can't wait for you all to hear her voice. Broadcasting for 30 years as a women's basketball analyst and reporter for ESPN, Fox Sports, Madison Square Garden Network, NBA TV, and the Big Ten Network. I love all the photos of those on your website. And when I do a Google search and see all the different pictures of you from throughout that career. And when I mentioned about you to several people, they said, "Oh, I know her," or they'd see your picture. I recognize her. So they knew you from the sidelines of games and different things. Um, Vera has a TV show on streaming on called Perseverance Live. And she is a certified trainer in conflict resolution. And she recently created Perseverance Speakers Academy. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. As I mentioned, we met at a women's business conference for the National Association of Women Business Owners. And we just met a month ago. And Vera was the MC, but Vera, I just loved when I arrived that first morning and I look around, the room is getting full. It's still early, but it's getting full. And I see one woman over on the side by herself at a table. And and you were looking at your phone or at the program or something. And I thought, all right, I need to look at the program. I hadn't picked who I was going to see. So I went over and asked if I could join you. And you made room, of course, and very welcoming. But you never said, yeah, by the way, I'm the MC. He was the MC for the thing.
Yeah,
So it
it
was
was okay.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was your favorite part of that conference?
Uh, you believe it or not, it was the feedback of the women, the energy. Like it was this intangible energy that seemed to follow the entire conference. I mean, we had great speakers. We certainly had great exhibitors, but it was the moment I stepped on stage and the energy. I don't know if you remember, and I did the selfie, and then everyone's like in it and laughing and the feedback, and not just when I spoke, when other people spoke, it was just this energy that was for me tremendously refreshing. This was the first one of the first conferences I had done live, obviously post COVID.
Yeah.
And I missed it. I've done plenty of virtual stuff like everyone else, but I think for me, that's what I took away more than anything, that we have gotten so far away from that connection, that energy that you get, especially from being with other powerful women in particular. Because there's nothing like girlfriend energy, right?
That's right.
Girlfriend energy is hot, right? It's like, and that's really it. That was it for me, Kelly. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, that was fantastic. And I loved anytime you saw anyone in passing or anything, people greeted, the warmth the whole time. And I'm at lunch. We sat together at lunch one of the days too. And just even that dynamic was fantastic. People sharing tips left and right and connecting and all of that. Yeah, that was good. But girl,
that's it. That's it. Yeah, it was that energy, right? To be able to get that. So
It
that's my thing. Like if
was.
yeah, less is more is, in this day and age, like you don't need a whole lot of words to, let somebody know you got their back. It's just
Yeah.
girl, like I got you, like I
Yeah.
see you, I got you. Yeah. So that was fun too. Everywhere I went, everybody was screaming, girl. So that
Yeah.
was good. Yeah, that
And
was
did
kind
you
of cool.
hear it when you weren't there too? It was
Yeah.
during other speakers and during
Yeah.
other times in passing, people were doing it. And
Yes.
yeah, that was so awesome. I love that. And so many different ways to use it, but the energy of that, you just captured it so well in that one word.
Yeah.
So where do you get that energy? Did you grow up like that? Is it something that you've just always been like that?
Yeah, guilty as charged. I have always been a bit of an extrovert. I realized early on really early in elementary school when it was time for show and tell and people would be really shy and I was like, oh, pick me, let me tell you, we went to the circus and I saw the clowns and, and storytelling was my thing, right? Like I just, is it my turn? And
Ah,
so, yes, I have had some of the same nuances of fear or anxiety that most people fear, but on a different level. Like mine
mhm,
was more of just put me up there and let me talk about something great. And I recognize that being able to speak and connect and relate with other people, like I said, as a little person, I didn't necessarily understand it. But as I got older, I realized that there are certain people who have a charismatic gift, and used the right way, it can empower a lot of people. I
mm.
just never saw it as such. It was just me being me, just yeah, full of energy, fun, excitement. Some of that has dwindled a little bit after post 50. But for the most part, I'm still that same little girl that gets excited about the smallest things in life. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Somebody asked me on a recording recently and a podcast about what gets me excited or something, and I felt kind of insufficient to say. It's really
Mhm.
simple things like when my dog gets home from a walk and runs in and greets me. Like the simple things now make
Yeah,
me
yeah.
excited.
It is the
Yeah,
little things. It
that gets
is.
my energy. Yeah. So tell me about do you have a morning routine that gets your energy going for the day?
I am definitely a morning person. My
Okay.
friends make fun of me because, like, if you call me after 8:30 at night, I'm like mad at you. I'm like, don't you know I'm going to bed in 30 minutes? I'm going to sleep in 30 minutes. But I'm up early, 5 or 6 a.m. Definitely have some time for prayer. Um, Try to do that before my feet hit the floor. Just and sometimes, and when I say prayer, it's sometimes it's very short. It's your will, your way. What do you have for me today? And that's it. Amen.
Oh, I like
Right.
that.
And I open up the window. I have a home that's on a little man-made lake, and that actually is part of it. I have to have the light come in.
Ah,
It's the weirdest thing, but first I gotta get it. I gotta open those blinds, just feel the
mhm,
light. And again, that warmth, that energy. I think I'm an energy person. And that's it. I'm a coffee drinker. So I
mm.
go for the coffee and then I'm checking emails, right? Like then I'm like,
Ah,
okay, the day starts, I'm checking emails and just kind of getting ready for my day. And one of the best things I think that has helped me, if there's any women business owners that feel like they have adult ADHD and they're all over the place, was coming up with a to-do list. I like to feel that sense of accomplishment.
mm.
So when I make little boxes and I make check marks. So while I'm having my coffee, I like to do that and say, okay, if nothing else, these 2 or 3 things have to get done today. But sometimes it is a list of about 10 or 20 things. So,
Mhm.
and that never happens. I never get them done. So keep
Oh,
the
right.
list short is my recommendation. Yeah.
I love it. HVAs, 3 high value activities a day. So,
Yes,
and
that's
then
it.
you get another 100 things done, but at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
the 3 most, what are the most important things? I'll feel a sense of accomplishment if I get these.
That works. It
Yeah,
does. It really,
it
really
does.
works.
It's so
Yeah.
good. So when you think back to your childhood, I mentioned you with Syracuse and the great championships that you won there in the Big East, and then also went to the NCAA tournament a couple times.
Mhm.
Um, and then your early career. Can you look back and think of how your childhood set you up for the success that you've had and you've been successful in so many different areas? And can you attribute that to anything from your childhood or?
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
I put a lot into what sport did for me. I
mm,
played a lot of sports. I ran track, I played basketball, softball, volleyball. I did a lot of things. I was just a really active kid, a little tomboy, as we were used to be called, running around behind my older brother and male cousins. So sport was it. But I learned so many valuable lessons. The first book I ever wrote was called Play Through the Foul: Basketball Lessons for the Game of Life. And
mm,
that probably sums it up for me quite a bit, because I could always find those parallels between what I did to overcome adversity in sport and those same principles of overcoming adversity in life in so many different ways. It has really, really helped me. I'm glad that I had the opportunity. I'm always thankful for every coach, every teacher, every mentor that helped me in that regard, because basketball, for the most part, sports became my entire life. I was a sports broadcaster for 30 years. I got that award. I started laughing in the introduction because you said, and she won the award in 1998. And you were like, that was a long time ago. I was like, yeah, but it was actually in 1988, which means it was even
oh,
longer time ago. So yeah. But yes, I would say if there were one thing, and I had a great family. I mean, mom, dad, even my older brother, who was a knucklehead and beat up on me all the time. That made me tough, if nothing else. But I had great family support. So I would say between my family support, a really good Christian background, and just sports, whatever shyness I was ever going to have, sport broke me out of that. And I
mm.
think I contribute or attribute a lot of my success to that.
And certainly in sports, you have to overcome adversity
Yeah.
when you lose a game, but even during a game. And
Hmm. In practice,
yeah, well,
you
that's
know?
right. That's
Yeah,
right.
not making your times. That was me. It was time for the mile run. You can count on who was coming in last.
Oh,
Always trying to better your time.
yeah.
Always trying to set goals and achieve. That, I think, has a very, very high efficiency um, for people's success. And now, like, I have my own training resource where it also called Play Through the Foul, team building and communication training. Same thing. I teach those athletic principles of how to have a winner's mentality and how to set those small goals and overcome, right? And how
Mm,
a failure is never failure. There are no losses if there are lessons, is the line I like to use, right? As long as what did you learn that you can fix and change and move on from today? And if you
right,
have that, you didn't lose anything. It's not failure. That's not fair. It's not
right.
failure. Yeah, it's just a
And
lesson.
and the leaders that beat people up over stuff like that and make them feel like failures, you got to move on from them then, because there's
Yes,
plenty of leaders out there that don't do that.
you
But
got that right.
but
You got
I
that
think
right. Hmm.
um, I think we kind of forget some of those lessons as we're coming up. So it's good that to go to the trainings and to have
Hmm.
those reminders or kind of a reset once in a while to just kind of get solid back to who we are and what we learned, and to remember to apply those things we learned as in sports or athletics as kids to
Yeah.
our businesses,
Hmm.
to our work.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, you had a huge flagrant, oh, I called it fragrant, but huge flagrant
Yeah.
foul.
Big difference.
Tell,
Yeah.
yeah, tell about that experience. And
Well, yeah, it was a flagrant foul. So I'm a single mom, and back in 2010, my only son was diagnosed with a brain tumor. It left him visually impaired, or legally blind, as they called it. And it was a very, very difficult point in my life. I never realized, again, back to those lessons, that through that experience, how of adversity, and the lessons learned, how that would set the platform for my keynoting experience. I had
mhm,
I had definitely launched a career as a motivational speaker, and I was talking a lot about, the relationship between sport and fouls. But when I got on the circuit and began to share the story of what it's like to be a single mom, feeling more blind than your own child, and trying to help him, what when you're hit with that kind of adversity, a brain tumor, not knowing whether your child will live or die, not knowing whether or not he will be able to see the next day when the surgery is over, and then all of the host of problems medically that he would face and still faces for the rest of his life. It almost took my breath away.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, I made it and he made it.
Yeah.
And so that came lessons, really, really strong lessons of faith, focus, and fortitude, those three elements. And now I've been able to put that into my keynote experience. And I had a video that got caught out there from an inbound speech. Goalcast jumped on it and turned it to a viral video of over 47 million views.
Yeah.
And it opened a lot of doors for me as a keynote speaker.
Amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a flagrant foul. But again, learning to play through the foul is everything. Everything.
And so interesting in that story when he had talked about having his head hurt or his eyes were bothering him for a little while, and then he tripped and fell down, and that's when you said, okay, this is something bigger, we got to go in. And you advocated for him. But wasn't it right at that same time that you felt called to write the the poem about your friends? Wasn't that then?
Stop hanging out with worry and doubt and make faith your new best friend. Kelly, I am telling you, when I'm talking about divine intervention, I mean, if I'm lying, I'm flying, right? I'm telling you, it could not have been any more eerie. The night before my son was due to get the MRI, I had heard this voice. Literally, it was like a voice in the still of the night. I'm busy writing and I hear this voice go, write this down. And I'm like, what? So I listened and I began to write, and I wrote this entire story. It was a little poem that turned into a story about a woman who was hanging out with her two knuckleheaded friends, one named Worry, one named Doubt. The longer she hung out with them, worse life became. The moment she woke up, she was hanging out with this new friend named Faith. And as long as she was hanging out with Faith, her life got better. And I just came out of nowhere. It was an entire book. The next thing I knew, I made it into a book. But I realized that it was placed inside of me the night before I found out about my son's brain tumor, because I'm definitely a world-class worrier. I got that beat. Got you beat. Got your mom beat. I got everybody beat when it comes to worrying. And it was almost as if, that was God's voice to say, you can't hang out with what's coming next. You can't be hanging out with worry and doubt. You're going to have faith. And that book literally changed my life. Yes, it was at the exact same time that book was written, was the night before my son's brain tumor was realized.
Gosh, isn't that something? And so I know you're a woman of faith, and so okay, I'm going to listen and hang out with my friend Faith. But knowing it and doing it in the most, that's got to be the biggest deal of your whole life when it's your kid, going through this, and then to have that faith during it. And then right at the beginning of this, you said, and I'm doing great. I made it to the other side. My son made it to the other side. Faith did that.
Yes. She's a good friend. She's definitely my best friend. The name of that book was called New Best Friend, A Little Book of Faith.
Wow.
And I try to encourage, that's one of the stories I use to encourage women. I certainly try to do things to encourage people who, persons with disabilities, and anybody, I don't beat people over the head with religion. I have always felt like it's about relationships. I don't care what religion it is. It's about who you serve and who you love. And if you can figure that part out, because that's not always easy, like when people cut you off in traffic, not easy.
I'm serving them all kinds of lovely hand gestures.
Right. And it's not always easy. But when you do figure that out, right? Like when you figure that out and you're good to people and you use the gifts and talents you have to help other people, like, isn't that why you're here? Like, wouldn't it be a waste? Like, it just feels like a waste to not use what you have to help somebody else, right? Yeah. So, it's really the reason why we're here. And that's really all the religion anybody needs, to use what you have to help somebody else, serve somebody else, and to love the best way you know how.
Yeah. That's what I talk about a lot. It's the love, and
Yeah.
we are not here to have a miserable experience.
No.
So let others win the competition of the miserable. I know you've heard me
Yeah.
say that before.
Yes.
We are not here to be miserable. We're here about
Mhm.
love. So what
Yeah.
does that look like? And
Yeah.
even going through such a difficult experience, having faith during it that there's more
Mhm.
to this. There
Yeah.
is more to come. There's more to this. I will be okay on the other side. There's something else.
Yeah.
And that's what faith is. And
Mhm.
faith showed up. Your friend Faith was there for you.
And what's crazy, even crazier, is Vera means faith. Yeah,
Oh,
it means truth in Latin, and it means faith in Hebrew. And once I discovered
oh.
that about my name, like I used to hate my name as a little kid, and people were like, Vera, that's so corny. And I was like, and once I knew that it meant faith, I was like, yeah, I love my name.
Yeah, it does.
And in the middle of Persa, if you can't figure it out, Virence
Yes.
is faith. So right in the middle of your
Oh
adversity
my God.
is faith. So that's why I have that logo.
Love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Mic drop. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. I wish I could see you at your class reunions now going up to
Okay, okay. Right.
girl.
Girl.
And so how is your son doing now? He went to
He's
Florida
good. For
State,
anyone
right?
out there listening, he's looking for employment. So reach
Okay.
out to me on LinkedIn. But he's doing well. I'm really proud of him. He graduated from Florida State right in the middle of the pandemic in
Okay.
2020, unfortunately. So he never had an official graduation to walk across the
Yeah.
stage.
Such a
But,
bummer
he's
for
out
those
here
kids.
like every other young Gen Zer, right? Looking
Uh,
for employment, trying to figure it out, wanting to know, how do I use my skills and talents to do whatever I'm called to do. So it's been an amazing journey watching him. It's my favorite part of life is being his mom. Yeah.
oh, that's so good. I bet
Yeah.
he's very proud of you too. And
No, he can't stand me because I'm,
well,
no, I'm just
no, he's
like,
older than he's not a teen anymore. He probably thinks you're all right.
he thinks I'm all right. Yeah, exactly.
And so, what kind of leadership lessons have you learned through that, but then also just through COVID and what your experiences have been with leaders and variety of different things that you've done?
Well, one of the biggest things on a communication aspect, and I can't emphasize this enough. I started my business back in 2008, and I can't even remember how many people I've polled at this time, how many leaders. But one of the things that I teach most is confidence building, and that
Mm.
comes through self-awareness, right? There's a stat floating around the internet that 95% of people will say that they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually are. So I always
Mm.
begin there, right? And I like to do exercises with perspectives. Like sometimes what we perceive ourselves to be isn't always the same thing we're communicating to others. And I use an example. One of the first things when I first started working for ESPN, for instance, an example was, I guess because of the nerves, I don't know if you can see this, but when I get serious, I get this line, this
Okay,
forehead line,
I can
right?
see
I
it
get
now
very,
that you
very,
mentioned it.
yeah, like I get this forehead line, I get very serious, and it looks like I'm angry. I never knew that. And
Ah,
so my producer at ESPN calls me in and he says, I like what you're saying and everything, but I brought you here because you're bubbly, you've got a great personality, you're fun. He said, I got one rule. When the lights, camera, action comes off, I need you to smile. Right. So
okay.
now I'm like this. Hi, but I didn't realize, like, that's just a small subliminal example of we don't see ourselves sometimes the way people see us. That's a physical example, but also
Mhm.
what we're communicating. So that's one is just being more self-aware. I like to start there. And the second is for leaders, it's clarity. It's clarity. We think we're communicating. I just don't understand why my person is, they're not following. Is like, well, sometimes you know what you want done, but
Mhm.
have you communicated it in a way that they can receive what you want done and can give it right back to you the way that you're asking for it. So
Right.
a lot of things that those two in particular, confidence and clarity, are two big ones for me with leaders. And
Those
then
are,
caring. There's another C. You got to care
yeah,
about your people. You got to care,
that
right?
is a good one.
Yeah.
And haven't you seen a difference in the need for leaders to care than
Yeah.
what you experienced coming up? I know
Yeah.
early in
Yeah.
my career, we wouldn't have expected that. And I worked with
Yeah.
great people who did care, but
Mhm.
we wouldn't have expected that back then.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to talk about emotions in the
Right.
workplace. There's no room for emotions. I'm like, well, who do you work with? I work with
Right.
people. Do people have emotions? Yeah. Then why are you talking about there's no room for
Yeah.
emotions in the work? I don't get it. Like they go together, right?
Yeah.
They go together. And so you have to, and so empathic leadership is definitely the train that I'm on and the train that I'm leading. And a lot of people haven't had opportunities to deal with their feelings and who, again, back to self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a certified mediator and conflict resolution trainer. So that, again, we go right back to everybody's a great leader when things are going great.
Yeah.
How do you respond in conflict? How do you play through the foul? And until you really understand yourself, you can't really expect to be an empathic leader, because that's what's
Mhm.
called for now. And this generation, we were just joking about Gen Z.
Right.
Oh, they're all about feelings.
That's right.
So whether you like it or not, I saw another great stat floating around the internet that by 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials, right? Yeah, the
Oh,
very few people 10 years ago, we were going, who are these people?
yeah.
Who are they? But 75% of the workforce, right? And
Wow.
so as you're getting into Gen Z and Gen Y and Gen Z, yeah, they are a little more emotional. They are
Yeah.
less rigid, right? And so
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah,
I
got to figure
remember
it
when Gen Y started coming up and they wanted to take breaks during the day, and they would take their whole hour for lunch and,
Yeah. Yeah.
leave at 5 o'clock, and people are like, what?
What?
And
You
well,
don't
then
do
you're going to
that.
work. Yeah. You'll work from 10 to 2 in the morning. Right. And they didn't. I'm like, what? Yeah, crazy. Another C to
Yeah.
add to your list is courage. And I blogged about that today. I wrote about it on LinkedIn and then in my blog, tied in with one of the phenomenons people have talked about lately is quiet firing. And that got my attention because it's so passive aggressive that
Yeah.
the leaders are just making the workplace miserable so people will quit rather than have the tough conversations with people. And you can have a hard conversation and still care and be gracious and nice and honorable. And but some people haven't learned how to do that, or or another C word that I used is chicken, that they're just to be leaders.
Yeah.
So does your academy, Perseverance Speakers Academy, is different than that training, right? So
Yeah,
you
so there's two major trainings I offer. The conflict resolution one is one I call classes for clashes. And
Oh,
it's
that's good.
available. You like that? A little,
Yeah, I
yeah, all
do.
right, witty. But classes for clashes it's available individually or small group training, mass training. However,
Okay.
I tailor and customize that. And that is conflict resolution that deals with confidence and the courage to have the confidence,
Yeah.
um, the communication, and then conflict resolution, the science of it overall.
Okay.
Perseverance Speakers Academy is because after 30 years of running my mouth professionally, I began to learn that there were other people that wanted to do the same, whether they wanted to do it from being a broadcaster, a speaker, a motivational speaker, or I've had everything from ministers to just leaders overall, people who have stage fright or glossophobia, as we call it. I've got a couple of doctors, PhDers,
Mm.
that just, hey, I've always been very introverted, very intelligent and introverted, but I'm not real good in front of people, want to get over this anxiety of speaking in front of a classroom. I absolutely love being a communication coach. I've had you think I've got a good story? All of the people who have come through my academy have had such heartwarming, perseverance stories. It's amazing. It is amazing. So I definitely want to do more with that. Perseverance Live that you mentioned earlier on. I stopped that because I actually started doing certified unscripted, a different show, but I'm going to bring that back in
Oh, okay.
2023. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So post about that. And I just put your website up there, but yeah, I didn't see that. I didn't know where to find that show. So I'm glad you mentioned
Yes.
that. And that all of her services are on the website, and keynoting and emceeing as well, which is how we met.
Yes.
I'm excited about that Perseverance Speakers Academy, and I think sharing that with my people will be useful. So business people tend to be who I work with, so they something for you to consider, everybody.
Absolutely.
So what's something you're looking forward to?
I think I just teased it. I really am in this next year looking forward to helping what I call ordinary people share their extraordinary stories. You know, the world could definitely benefit from more hope and inspiration. And that's kind of my area where I like to hang out with me and Faith. Like we like to hang out over there with hope and joy, right? Like we like to all hang out together.
Those are some good friends right there.
Yeah, there's some good friends to hang out with. So in this upcoming year, I really am looking to do more in that space. And like I said, the conflict resolution space as well. Just, you know, I've always said there's just nothing like being able to help people play nice together at work, right? Like I've been on great teams with amazing coworkers and friends and leaders, and that empowering thing that we talked about, we felt at NAWBO.
Yeah.
And I've been amazed at what I've been able to accomplish. And I've had one or two horrible bosses on horrible teams that I wish I could have been a lot more effective to help get better. But now I can do it hindsight, because sometimes you can help change things from the outside better than you can from the inside.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to those things. Yeah, for sure.
Those are so good. I love that. Helping people tell their stories and just feel comfortable with their stories and confident in their stories and their life and whatever comes up next for them. So
absolutely. But this was fun. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I didn't even see this coming. You were like, hey, you're going to be my next guest. I was like, I am? On what? So this is great. I mean, kudos to you, Kelly. This is great. I mean, you're giving me ideas, you know, even for the show. But I'm going to turn right back around and bring you on my show. So there.
Oh, yay. I would love it.
Yeah.
Would love it. I'm there for you, girl.
All right.
All of our NAWBO friends will know what that refers to. But one word says a lot. Thank you so much for being part of my day and part of my life, and for sharing yourself at the conference and with everybody today, and with all of those people that you influence and that you help, and you're out there making a difference, and it's just so inspiring. So thank you for all that you do.
Thanks,
and keep the faith. Keep the faith. I love it. Yay.
Yes. Yeah, it's all about perseverance.
Yes.
In the middle of the adversity every time.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.